My parents skipped my graduation. No familiar faces, no saved seats, just the hollow echo of their absence louder than the stadium announcements. I walked across the stage alone, clutching my diploma, forcing myself to act like it didn't wound me. The next morning, as my cap and gown lay crumpled on the floor, my aunt called. "Your parents are going door to door, borrowing money using your name." I froze, then drove straight to their house. What I saw in that living room made me understand something. The graduation wasn't the betrayal. It was only the prelude to something far worse. I'd spent my life learning that silence was safer than hope. It started subtly, in ways outsiders might never notice. At my elementary recital, I stood behind the curtain, hands clammy on my costume. Parents cheered everywhere, phones held high. My mother's seat remained empty until she strolled in halfway through, sunglasses on, murmuring about traffic. She never asked what I performed. I stopped mentioning recitals after that. By middle school, the pattern was ingrained. I joined debate club and reached the finals. I reminded my parents repeatedly, wrote the date on the fridge, even tucked a note under my mother's coffee mug. She shifted it aside without a glance. When I won second place, I brought home the certificate. "Nice," she said. "Don't let it distract from real goals." She never asked my topic, my opponent, or anything beyond a passing comment. My father simply gave the nod. He always used to avoid conflict. High school offered no reprieve. My brother Luke flourished. Varsity sports, weekend hangouts, endless accolades. My mother called him a miracle. When he forgot homework, she drove across town to deliver it. When I spent nights at the library for a crucial project, she texted, "Don't be dramatic. You have keys." Luke earned pizza for average grades. I made honor roll and earned silence. Money drew the clearest line. Freshman year of college, I held 2 jobs, early shifts at a bookstore, weekends entering data at an office. I kept every receipt, every stub, proof I wasn't a burden. Meanwhile, my parents told relatives they were supporting me through school, painting themselves as generous pillars. I heard it at Thanksgiving, my plate half full, her voice loud, smiling as if she'd carried me. It wasn't the lie that cut. It was the ease with which she told it. Birthdays were reminders too. On my 18th, I baked myself a cake because my parents were at one of Luke's tournaments. They arrived late, exhausted. "Oh, right. Today," my mother said. My father touched my shoulder briefly, unsure. I blew out the candles alone. Countless small moments etched themselves into memory. A college acceptance letter hidden under magazines, a scholarship notice used as a coaster, nights I worked feverish shifts to pay rent. They didn't ask. I didn't speak. I learned a quiet truth. It hurts less to be ignored when you stop expecting attention. Graduation crystallized everything. Standing under stadium lights, scanning a crowd that wasn't looking for me, I recognized the pattern. Familiar, relentless, finally impossible to ignore. The morning after felt eerily still. My cap and gown lay on the floor, tassel curled like a question mark. I stepped over it, pretending it didn't matter. The phone rang before the kettle boiled. Aunt Helen never called this early, never without a text first. I answered. "Jade," she said, voice strained. "Are you awake?" "I'm here." A pause hung, uncomfortable. Then, "Your parents are going door to door, borrowing money in your name." I stayed silent, grounding myself on the counter. Memories of my empty graduation seats returned, heavier now. "They told everyone you have a high-paying job lined up," she continued. "They're claiming you promised to vouch for loans. Some people already gave them money." My thumb pressed into the counter. The idea that they remembered me only as a tool, not a child, sank in. Another buzz. A cousin's text. "Hey, is it true we're supposed to send money to your parents? They said you'll pay us back once you start that job." The job I hadn't even interviewed for yet. Aunt Helen's words blurred, cataloging their deceit, which neighbors believed, which were confused. It wasn't that they ignored me yesterday. They remembered me today only to exploit me. I picked up the gown, limp and dusty from a stadium. Silence thickened. Jade, she whispered. You didn't know, did you? No, I said, steady. Another message. Can you confirm this? They said you asked for help. I let the phone screen fade. I'll handle it, I said. And I meant it. For the first time in a long while, I truly meant it. After the call ended, I didn't move. The apartment felt like it was holding its breath with me. Morning light slipped through the blinds in thin silver lines, stretching across the cap and gown still resting in my hands. I folded them carefully, smoothing each crease, and set them on the chair beside the window. The quiet wasn't empty. It felt intentional, as if it wanted me to notice something I had been refusing to see. I opened my laptop. My inbox was filled with automated acknowledgments from job applications, polite maybes, lined up one after another, none guaranteeing anything. Starting out at the bottom meant reputation mattered. If rumors spread that I was borrowing money recklessly, those maybes could crumble instantly. Next, I skimmed through bank records, tuition payments, bookstore paychecks, early morning shifts, late-night data entry deposits. Line after line, every expense and every dollar I'd earned on my own. There was no sign of my parents in any of it, not financially, not emotionally, not in any meaningful way. A tightness grew in my throat. Not sadness, not fury, just an icy clarity settling into place. More messages came in, people asking for confirmation about what my parents had told them. I ignored them. Instead, I opened a blank spreadsheet and started filling it in. Dates, names, amounts, screenshots neatly organized into columns. Evidence. Straightforward, traceable, undeniable. I didn't know exactly how I would use it yet, but I knew it needed to exist. Aunt Helen sent a voice note next. I didn't listen. I saved it into a folder labeled later. The kettle cooled with a soft click. The faint scent of steam and laundry detergent from my gown lingered in the apartment. I closed my eyes, letting everything settle. Then I stood. I moved through the apartment with a quiet focus, like someone preparing to leave for a long journey. No rush, just purpose. From a shoebox under my bed, I pulled old pay stubs, scholarship letters, receipts, things I'd kept without knowing why. Now I did. I laid everything out on the kitchen table. Edges curled with age. I straightened each page, my hand steady. The calm I felt wasn't peace, it was colder, sharper, like metal cooled in water. When the folder was finally full, I zipped it and held it for a moment. It felt heavier than paper should. A text from Luke arrived. Mom says you're overreacting. Just clear it up. Clear it up. The words tasted like iron. I didn't respond. I picked up my keys instead. The weight familiar. Grounding. For years, I thought taking action meant confrontation. Now I understood it could also mean precision, moving toward truth without spectacle. Outside, the air carried the smell of damp pavement. I slid into my car, shut the door softly, and sat there without turning the engine on. The back alley was empty except for a recycling bin leaning crookedly, nudged by the wind. The silence in the car felt different from the silence at home. This silence wasn't asking. It was preparing. I turned the key. The engine hummed. I pulled onto the street, gravel crunching beneath the tires. The city around me looked unchanged, dog walkers, morning joggers, cars lining up at stoplights. Ordinary scenes completely unaware that someone's life was shifting under the surface. Yet the air felt thinner, as if a hidden thread had snapped and was waiting to unravel the rest. My parents lived 15 minutes away. I knew every turn, every tree, every mailbox. But today the route felt strange, like I was driving into a memory instead of a neighborhood. At a red light, I glanced at the SUV next to me, a toddler pounding tiny fists on the seat, the mother offering snacks, the father smiling. Just presence. Such a simple thing. I watched them until the light turned green. As I neared my parents' street, a weight pressed against my ribs. Not fear, just inevitability. Their house looked exactly the same. Busted porch light, chipped planter, outdated wreath hanging lopsided on the door. A facade of normalcy, hiding everything beneath it. I parked along the curb. The engine ticked softly as it cooled. I stayed there, hands on the wheel, staring at the front door. I wasn't rehearsing a speech or bracing for excuses. I was listening, for the first time, to the voice inside me that had grown too loud to dismiss. I unlatched my seatbelt, picked up the folder, and opened the car door. The air was cooler, brushing my cheeks as if to confirm I was awake, present, choosing this moment. I walked the familiar path slowly, each step deliberate. Cracks in the pavement, scattered leaves, the rise and fall of my own breath. Everything felt unnervingly sharp. Just before I knocked, I paused, absorbing one final breath of silence. Then I raised my hand. The moment before my knuckles hit the door, one truth crystallized. Whatever waited on the other side couldn't break me. It would only expose the fractures that had been there all along. My mother pulled the door open before I could knock a second time. Her expression flickered. Surprise. I felt a shift. First irritation, then calculation, finally a thin, controlled smile. "So, you've come," my mother said, stepping aside with a faint air of courtesy. The living room was more crowded than I expected. A couple from our extended family sat on the couch, an envelope balanced between them. My father lingered nearby, arms folded, eyes fixed on the floor. The room smelled faintly of coffee, with a sour undertone. Unease, maybe. No one spoke. Then the woman on the couch murmured, "Jade, we didn't think you'd come today." Her fingers gripped the envelope like she hoped I wouldn't ask what was inside. My mother moved to block my view, voice sharp. "We're busy right now. If you'd called." I ignored her and stepped past. On the coffee table were more envelopes, some thin, some fat, some already opened. My father cleared his throat, brittle. "Your mother, we—" Linda cut him off, voice rehearsed. "We only needed a little help. Family helps each other. You're making it bigger than it is." I set the folder in my hands onto the table. The soft thud drew every eye. My mother's jaw clenched. "What's that?" she demanded. "Everything you claimed I promised to cover," I said evenly. Her face paled for a beat, then hardened into indignation. "Jade, don't start. They trusted us. That's what family is." The older man on the couch looked between us, baffled. "So, you didn't promise to pay?" I opened the folder, letting pages fall forward. Screenshots, bank statements, scholarship letters, pay stubs. Proof of my work. Proof of what they hadn't done. My father stepped back slightly. My mother's voice trembled with feigned outrage. "You're twisting this. We told people you'd help because you owe this family for your education. You think you did it alone." A hush fell. Aunt Helen appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, gaze steady. "You didn't pay a cent of her schooling," she said quietly. "You told everyone you did, but we all know who really did." The couple on the couch stiffened. The woman whispered, "We gave them money because we thought Jade guaranteed it." "I didn't," I said. "I never agreed to anything." My mother's composure cracked. "You're overreacting. It's not wrong to ask for help." "You didn't ask," I replied. "You used my name." Other relatives appeared in the hallway, drawn by the rising tension. My father whispered, "Linda, maybe we should." "Don't even think about folding now," she snapped. But it was too late. Faces that once nodded along were now watching her with doubt. I gathered the papers in my hands. Each sheet felt like a boundary taking form. I met her eyes. "If you needed help, you could have asked," I said. "You didn't. You used me." Silence dropped over the room like a heavy glass. My mother opened her mouth, then shut it again. My father lowered his gaze. The couple returned the envelope to the table as though it burned their hands. For years, I had been quiet. Now the quiet belonged to me. I don't remember leaving. One moment I was standing in that living room, the air thick with unspoken truths. The next, I was on the porch, the door closing softly behind me. Evening had settled without my noticing, the sky a muted blue, right before the streetlights flickered on. I descended the steps slowly. The air smelled of freshly cut grass, faint metal, distant rain. My car waited where I'd left it, quiet, patient. I slid in and rested my hands on the wheel, not shaking, not anymore. For For the first time in a long time, there was space inside me. I drove without hurry, letting the city drift past like a slowed-down film. Houses blurred into shops, then the gentle rise of downtown towers glowing in dusk. By the time I returned to my apartment, night had deepened to indigo. Inside, everything appeared unchanged, but nothing felt the same. The cap and gown remained on the chair. Yesterday, it was proof of effort. This morning, it had been a cruel joke. Now, it was a boundary I had drawn. In the following weeks, I moved differently, quieter, deliberate. I packed my belongings into neat boxes, labeled them, lined them against walls. A job offer appeared unexpectedly. I signed it with steady hands. I found a new apartment, then another, until I discovered a place that felt like beginning again. The morning I left, sunlight poured across the floor. I sat on the edge of the bed, breathing in the calm. A text from my father appeared. "I'm sorry for everything." Another from my mother. "We should talk." I left the screen dark. Outside, the air was cool and open, full of possibility. I locked the apartment door, slipped the key into my pocket, and walked forward, toward a future that felt, for the first time, fully mine. Some distances reveal themselves slowly, not in leaps, but in the moment you stop shrinking to fit them. I used to think silence was imposed, a space I had to endure. Now I know it can also be chosen, a doorway, a clean threshold into something new. If you've ever rebuilt yourself quietly, step by step, know this: there is nothing weak in walking away. And if you're listening, have you ever drawn a line you never cross back?